What's up, Las Vegas? It's time for another Tuesday News Roundup. And today the topics are just as hot as those temps that are hitting us way too early. It's not even mid-May, for crying out loud. We're diving into the fights that shut down the Great American Foodie Fest, breaking down whether or not Vegas is actually a great place to start your career, and giving you the 411 on an upcoming immersive culinary experience coming to the Valley that you won't want to miss. And to help me dive into it all, we're joined by Walbert Castillo, the founder of Historia. He's the man behind that event, and our creative producer, Jacob Solis, is also here with us today. It's Tuesday, May 12th. I'm Jesse Merrick, and here's what Las Vegas is talking about. All right, before we get into today's conversation, I want to take a moment to thank all the folks who signed up to become CityCast Las Vegas neighbors over the last week or so during our spring membership campaign. We've got a lot of names to read, so Jacob, maybe you can help me out here?
Absolutely. We want to thank Nancy F., Jennifer H., Scott M., Stuart S., Jen J., and Alex M. for stepping up. We can't wait to see you at our regular CityCast Las Vegas neighbor events.
Heck yeah, we love it. People have been rolling in, but that's not it. We still have more names to get to. Mike F., Emily J., Chris V., Angela L., and Colleen H. All these folks and others like them are helping us build a real community of neighbors and are directly investing in this podcast. We can't thank all of you enough. Now, for those of you who missed the campaign or didn't get a chance to sign up, it's not too late. You can still get in on the fun. You can become a CityCast Las Vegas neighbor at membership.citycast.fm/Las Vegas. If you sign up by today, Tuesday, May 12th, you'll get an entry into our raffle to score a pair of tickets to Historia's latest immersive dining experience, which we will hear more about from our guest Walbert Castillo later in the episode today. Our doors are always open. You can sign up for just $10 a month. What a steal. That's at membership.citycast.fm/Las Vegas. All right, so let's dive into today. Walbert, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you so much, Jesse, and I appreciate the CityCast team for having me.
Yeah, definitely. We're excited for this one today. Now, Jacob, we'll start with you and dive into some spiciness going on over at the Great American Foodie Fest. What's the deal with the fights over there?
Oh, yeah. Things got a little too spicy. So just for some background, Great American Foodie Fest, if you don't know, giant food festival. They have, I think, over 100 vendors, tons of food trucks over at Desert Breeze Park over in Spring Valley. Big deal. They've got carnival rides. It's like a thing. It's a big thing. So they had to close early on Saturday.
No.
Yeah, this is the first time in 14 years of holding the event, though, they've had to do it. And they had to do it because of a disturbance, quote unquote, from teens. Many teens. There were two different fights, and they called in the cops, and everything just shut down. Now, to get into a little bit of the details, there was a statement released by the organizers. They said quote, there were a few teens that caused a commotion, but security and police escorted them off quickly.
What a way to name it. Sorry to jump in here, but a commotion? That's what did it?
Yeah. Don't worry, everyone. It was just a commotion. Yeah. They apologized, and they did reopen the day after because it's a 3-day thing, I believe, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. They reopened on Sunday. No problems, with one change. If you were under 18, you had to have a parent or guardian with you. So no more unaccompanied minors. And in another statement, they said, quote, contrary to rumors, no one got stabbed and no one got shot. So going through the rest of this here, I mean, there were some police speak reports about it. There is this one that they responded to the 8400 block of Spring Mountain Road regarding a juvenile disturbance in crowd egress. And I love police speak. What does that mean?
It's so great.
No one knows what that means.
Yeah, as you're reading, I'm just sitting there like, okay, I love this PR fest here of the police talk.
Exactly. So in any case, as far as I can tell, media reports say that I don't think there have been any arrests related to this. But there are social media videos of the aftermath at least, but they're all like people leaving, and there are police everywhere. There's like cars driving through the grounds and motorcycles. There's a helicopter flying around.
Oh, wow.
But I don't think I've seen any videos of the fight itself. Maybe this is me not finding it on the TikTok algorithm effectively enough. But as far as I can tell, it's all aftermath and people just being upset at the teens. So I guess I'll leave it there.
Yeah, no, it's a weird deal going on there. And Walbert, I mean, look, this is your world in terms of events surrounding food and things like that. How do you wrap your head around kind of just what went down over there?
It is interesting. I have to say that, I've seen videos on my social feeds with teens storming into places. I think I saw something at the Scientology Center in New York where a bunch of teens went through and stormed the area. It was like a timed trend kind of approach where they storm through and then they all leave. They try to find the backdoor exit. But, that caused some uproar, of course. And so I think when we have these bigger festivals, these events, I think it's important to think about the idea that it's not about just hiring more security guards. I think it has to do with your experiential design and the way that everything is set up. If it's sprawling and open, it kind of loses like this sense of containment. And so like by having kind of like a walkthrough, if you were a visitor and you were to walk through this festival, what can you expect and how would you want it designed? Yeah. So I think it should be treated more of a destination than a parking lot gathering.
Yeah, like the difference between, say, like walking through an IKEA versus like where there's the arrows on the ground pointing you so you keep moving versus like, like a block party that's just like, people throw up stuff wherever and it's not necessarily organized per se.
Yeah, better food this way, pointing into the
keep going.
If you want to fight, here's the exit. I guess that's maybe one way to create a little more ingress egress flow even better, right? But Jacob, like why? So again, we're trying to figure out exactly what happened here. Like you said, there's no video, all this stuff. Like this has never happened in 14 years at least with with the Foodie Fest. So why did it get so bad to the point where they had to shut it down?
This is what's fascinating to me, is that clearly it was bad enough that they just stopped, right? Cops came in, everybody had to leave. It wasn't like, oh, we can remove the offending teens. It was like, the only way to stop this is to shut it down. We'll see you tomorrow. I think Walbert's right that like, there's something happening now. I suspect it's social media. There's maybe something about the way that young people now are experiencing life, both with social media and post-COVID. I feel like social norms have shifted in some discrete ways. I remember last year online, in Vegas, there was a thing where like a bunch of teens tried to storm an In-N-Out and they had to like bar the doors from the inside, which was crazy. What are you doing? Why are 100 teens at an In-N-Out? And so obviously it feels like social media is playing a part, but it just also feels like there's maybe some kind of like, there's no way for those teens to like express themselves other ways. Though I'll just say this, I'll end my little spiel here. This has always been a thing. Teens have always had like, their wiles up about stuff. Every John Hughes movie is about this. Grease, West Side Story. Like there's so much media post World War II about like teenagers getting into nonsense. And so I suppose this is, the latest in a long history of that.
Yeah, it feels like the next, like, get off my lawn, and we're all aging ourselves here and becoming those, old folks that are like, oh, kids these days. But at the same time, I mean, I've heard it slugged as teen takeovers to Walbert and your points, like, and I these things are just crazy. Like what I understand like a flash mob or something like that if you're doing something fun, whatever. But like if you're going and taking over a place and having to shut it down and scaring the workers that are there, like but what the hell are we doing here? So I guess like is it a kids these days thing or how do we fix this? Like why do we figure out another outlet for them? Like what's the deal?
I mean, it's so funny when you bring up flash mobs because I remember within the past decade before this generation, I felt like that was something that consumed malls and actually outdoor and indoor malls. I think that was very much top of mind when I saw that. And so seeing this surge of teen takeovers, I think it should come at a point where we should build better containers for our community events as our city grows. I think that's kind of where my take is for sure.
Yeah. And I think maybe to your point, Walbert, about like having, if you're thinking about this as almost a design problem, right? Or like a human psychology problem, certainly like teenagers are bored, right? There's certainly one of the reasons this happens is because they have nothing else to do. And so they're like looking for something to do. Certainly something like the Great Foodie Fest should be an opportunity for teenagers to come and have fun and just enjoy themselves. And when it devolves into this, it feels like maybe there's some friction that's appearing that shouldn't be there. And it's like, is it something broader? Is it the fact that malls are in decline and that there's the lack of third spaces? There's this big societal question of like, do people have enough stuff to do that's outside the home? Do teenagers have enough autonomy? Do parents have too tight a leash on their teens now? But it's just, I don't know. It's baffling to me. Why now? Sort of why are these big fights, these big things happening now? Other than social media, I wish I had a better answer.
Yeah, and again, like there is some of the like, hey, we just see it more probably too because social media is so prevalent and all that stuff. But at the same time, it did feel like, again, with the flash mobs and stuff like that, they were a little more lighthearted. It's not like, hey, let's go start a brawl at this event, and like ruin it for everybody. I think like make them more fun again, less destructive. But it also, too, makes me wonder, is this an issue just with Vegas as a whole? And look, this is something that happened in a neighborhood off of the Strip, but we saw, when WWE was here for WrestleMania and everything, all the chaos that was happening down there years ago, when the NBA brought the All-Star game here, obviously all the issues that, stemmed from that. And those are, not one-offs, but there's things that have happened and trends that have occurred over the years. So I guess just does Vegas need to kind of rethink their approach to security around different events and things like this? Like, Walbert, you noted a lot of it has to do with like the way you set the event up, but what really does need to go in to the thinking of security for things like this?
I think just keeping an overall sort of mindset of what to expect when you're coming in. I think when we have these events, especially that where the public can essentially purchase and walk in, I think there needs to be that layer of expectation of how to behave when you walk into these festivals.
Be a good person.
Seriously. I think because, and I mean, Vegas, man, it's like we have such a slew of events that happen all across the board, right? In my head, I don't remember the last time I actually saw like a disclaimer, like, know this, know that. I think really it's the expectation, right, for what we know is to maintain a behavior that's respectful for others. But I think it needs to be clear, hopefully in a way for other folks to come in, even when you walk in, and that if they can't follow those rules or abide by them, then they just have to get kicked out. But at least they know right there and then, rather than after the fact, because I think constant reminders in a world where we have so much social content out there, these reminders will help us stay at bay.
Yeah, and I think real quick too, just to, because you got me thinking now, there is a sense that I have, and maybe I'm off base here, that in the age of social media, and especially post-COVID, people no longer engage with the idea that like someone else might be their own whole person. That like they think that they're the only person on earth. And when they engage with other people, I'll use a video game term, they're NPCs, right? They're not a real person who has a full idea or full brain in their head and can act on their own impulses. And so this creates a lot of selfish behaviors in public spaces. I love movies. Going to the movie theater sucks now because people do not respect other people watching movies. I enjoy, having a good time just like anybody else, but there needs to be some level of decorum. And it just feels like people just have self-adjusted to stop caring about what other people or how other people experience some kind of public event. And I don't know how you fix that other than chastising them at the movies. That's how I live my life. Please shut up at the movies. But I don't know. What a mess.
Well, no, to your point, Jacob, I mean, and look, I think, social media as a whole has created like a big me culture type of thing, and again, even for events like this, it's like, oh, hey, how can we go viral? So that's a problem I think that we're kind of dealing 100%. With, and it's new to us. I mean, when you go back and think about it, social media is what, 10, 15 years old to 20? I mean, however long, like it's something that's new to us in the grand scheme of like the timeline of humanity. We're all still trying to figure this out, and when we're left to our own devices, crazy stuff like this happens. Zenleaf Las Vegas is celebrating its 10-year anniversary with All In at 10 and 10 straight days of daily themed deals, in-store activations, and vendor pop-ups across all locations in Las Vegas. Visit Zenleaf Las Vegas between May 21st and May 30th to join the All In at 10 celebration. Customers can enjoy exclusive promotions and expect new surprises throughout. Plus, a portion of the proceeds from each day will support one of 10 local nonprofits and give back to the community as well. In-store shoppers can also pick up the 10-year anniversary playbook, which is a limited edition keepsake that unlocks rewards and prizes through purchases and activations. Zenleaf's Flamingo and Fort Apache locations offer deli-style flour, allowing customers to see and smell before it's weighed fresh. Drive-through pickup is available at Flamingo and Fort Apache, while North Las Vegas customers can take advantage of delivery directly from the Zenleaf team. And CityCast Las Vegas listeners can also unlock special in-store savings when they mention us or the newsletter. Zenleaf continues to make cannabis shopping approachable, engaging, and convenient for both new and experienced customers. Search Zenleaf Las Vegas online to find your nearest location and browse deals ahead of your visit.
Step into the movies with the Neon Museum's new movie tour in the heart of Las Vegas. take a guided walk through real neon backdrops that have actually appeared in some of Hollywood's most memorable scenes over the decades. Your tour starts in the iconic La Concha Motel lobby, which is now the Neon Museum's visitor center, and a key setting in Scorsese's film Casino. Stand where Robert De Niro and Sharon Stone filmed their romantic evening as Ace and Ginger, and then wander the world-famous neon boneyard surrounded by vintage marquees and historic signs. Plus, you'll connect neon landmarks to films like Casablanca, Superman, and The Joe Louis Story. Relive the comedy of Vegas Vacation as you walk among signs tied to Chevy Chase's classic. You'll hear insider stories and fun trivia that bring these movie moments to life and capture unforgettable photos. So join fellow cinephiles on a one-of-a-kind tour that turns the Neon Museum into your own movie set. Check out the Neon Museum's new movie tour and discover how Las Vegas earned its reputation as the entertainment capital of the world through film.
So we just spent some time here dragging young people. Now let's talk about why they should come to Las Vegas. Wallet Hub actually just dropped a new study ranking the best cities in the country to start a career. And guess what? Vegas actually came in at number 19 out of more than 180 cities. All right, they looked at 25 different factors in this study, including things like entry-level job availability, starting salaries, housing affordability, and even how fun the city is to live in. I think Vegas obviously ranks top of the list in that last category there. And as you can imagine, to crank the top 20 of this one, Vegas scored pretty well across the board. But just so you guys have an idea of the other cities, and this is what gets weird to me when you look at the rest of the ones that are in front of us here, or at least in the top 5, Atlanta, Orlando, Austin, Tampa, and Miami came into the mix. Now, one thing that stands out, no state income tax areas, in some of those at least. Atlanta is an interesting one for me. I wouldn't have guessed that. As you guys hear this study, how do you wrap your head around how maybe, we fit into the mix with some of these other cities in the top 5?
I saw this study and what are they talking about? Okay, I started my career here. I'm from Vegas. Yeah. I didn't go to school or go to college here, but I came back to work here. And every job I've gotten here was because I knew somebody. And obviously I had the resume to back it up and I'm good at my job. Hey. But it was not because I got a resume that managed to sneak through the system. And it's only ever gotten worse, right? With AI or with just the way that there's this deluge. It feels like applying for a job now is this full contact sport that gets worse every second of existence. Yeah. And I just can't imagine, Vegas is like anywhere else. There's so few entry level jobs and there's so many people who need them. Young people can't break through and then they just get annoyed. There was this TikTok that went viral. I'll stop here. That there's this, Gen Z girl who complained that millennials need to retire already and give their jobs to Gen Zers, which fair, but you should be looking at Gen X, not millennials.
Yeah. Hey, I'll retire if you want me to, though. Give us the money to do it.
So yeah, it feels like there's some kind of disconnect, maybe. I don't know.
It's interesting. I have to say, I didn't grow up in Las Vegas. I actually grew up in Chicago, lived my whole life out there, went to college, and then I pursued my career as a journalist in Washington, D.C. for about 6 years. It's interesting because the way that I've typically seen my career has always been moving up the ladder, right? The corporate sort of mantra. Okay, you have this, but what's next after? And, it's interesting coming to a place like Las Vegas. I would say that I actually think starting a business from the ground up is more ideal here than any other place. And it's interesting, hot take, because there is room to grow. I feel like Vegas is such a blank canvas for you to kind of innovate and pioneer that new something. We've always been, I think, in the past 5 years that I've been here, I've noticed that there's so much room for experimentation when it comes to events, especially on the experiential level. And I say that because it's people kind of expect you to go over the top. How do I say this?
Look, there's a lot to offer in Vegas. So to your point, that makes sense. Yeah.
You got to Vegasify it. If you're doing it in Vegas, you got to do it the Vegas way.
Yeah.
I actually think it would be more difficult to start a business elsewhere and not have that proper sort of canvas to create. And I think Vegas is kind of breeds that sense of wanting to carve your own path. But yes, I think the disconnect is interesting. When when folks do start a career here, they're oftentimes faced with, hospitality, F&B. For a lot of folks, maybe they do an F&B gig while they're going to school, or they start working on the strip right after. But the lead up, the path toward that, it does take time rather. And I don't know, I think that's kind of the mantra that Vegas has had as people who live here and breathe that. Mm-hmm. That's what I've seen personally.
Yeah. No, I think what's interesting to me about this whole thing is like, I just look and I'm like, okay, starting salaries, like what are they here in Vegas for someone fresh out of college? Because look, we're talking to three folks on here who cut their teeth in the world of journalism where salaries are not much different than they were in the 90s and 2000s when you're first starting out, which is just a crazy thing in its own deal. So I wonder, like, okay, a lot of these kids, like, one, what are you studying to get these, massive, or bigger salaries that you would imagine to where it makes it feel like things are affordable here in Las Vegas? Now, you're also talking to somebody who's born and raised in Southern California, and moved here in 2019 after bouncing around, the country and all that stuff. And to me, Vegas is still affordable compared to what I grew up with and the housing prices out there and all that. I've been lucky enough to become a homeowner here in Las Vegas, and I took advantage of that. But that was also in a different time in 2021 when rates were what they were. I think I got lucky with the timing. Nowadays, I look around and I'm like, okay, how does anybody do it? So I don't know how we do, make it into this one. But I also see Austin on here. And I know Austin is one of those other places, like city that's seen a big tech boom. But good God, is the property expensive as hell out there. I have some friends that live out there, and you got to be 45 minutes outside of the city to where you're not even in Austin anymore for it to make sense, in terms of cost of living for a home and stuff like that. So Atlanta, I can see it. But it is just interesting kind of wrapping your head around this here in Vegas of how it all works out. And made all of us think as we were getting ready for the show here, though, too, of like, okay, if you were coming to Vegas or you lived in Vegas and were starting a career, what is a career that you would start? If you could do it all over again, forget this journalism background that we all have. If you could start over and be like, I'm going to dive into this career here in Vegas, what would it be and why?
I would say creative operations would be something top of mind here for me. I think a lot of people come to Vegas to try to build immersive experiences, but I think they lack the connective tissue to pull it off locally. And it's that kind of connectivity, that network that only Vegas locals can have here. It's the hush hush. Who do I get connected to and why? And it's also just like letting people know that there's so much to experience outside of the strip too. It's like when they come here, it's like, okay, I'm only here on the strip. This is my parameter. And then I don't leave. And then that's it. But I think people who want to understand the operations behind the art is something that allows whoever starts their career here can be malleable for anyone that comes to Vegas and starts to pull something off. I think the whole thing with operations really grounds itself in systems. These systems allow these spectacles, these immersive experiences to happen. And if you don't want to burn your staff out, then, you should find someone who grounds that. So for me personally, creative ops, that's something that I would pursue.
Well, I have a much sillier answer because I was going to say trapeze artist.
This is a great
that was my second.
But no, to make that a real answer, I feel like performing arts in Vegas, like obviously you could do a performing arts career in lots of cities. Obviously the big cultural hubs like New York and LA, first among them. But in Vegas in particular, it feels like there's a niche for weirder arts that are nonetheless extremely oppressive. Acrobatics feels like one where like, okay, you could be a world-class gymnast, but if you're simply a very good gymnast, then you can get work. Cirque du Soleil or Spiegel World, or like there's so many companies in Vegas that are dedicated to a kind of performing arts that doesn't really exist, or if it does exist, doesn't exist in the way that it exists in Vegas and other places. And so I think, man, if you want to have a career as a performing artist that's sort of outside the norm, I feel like Vegas is this perfect little incubator to do crazy flips.
Yeah, definitely not on the consistency of it either. I mean, shoot, every night there's something down on the strip with Cirque and all the different things. That'd be funny. For me, my brain initially went to like, I mean, you guys heard me talk about housing and things like that. I love, just the real estate business as a whole. I wouldn't be a real estate agent, but I would try and figure out a way to be a developer or like an architect that specializes in building casinos, because like people here literally pay billions of dollars to buy a casino, tear it down and rebuild it. And then it's now kind of become this like arms race of, okay, who can build the craziest thing down on the strip? And I think it'd be so much fun, to have a hand in building some of that and shaping the strip that just is constantly changing, because it's just one of those deals where you're like, okay, how different is our vista, our landscape going to look down on the strip each and every year?
Well, if you do that, Jesse, really what I need is for you to break the cycle of big, dumb glass towers. I'm over it. Even the guitar tower is only halfway there.
Yeah.
I've said it once, I've said it a million times, but
Bring back the themed resorts. We've talked about it before. Folks that listen to the pod would know my very first casino project would be building a something like Ski Dubai down on the strip. It would be some obnoxious looking mountain resort from the outside. What that would look like, I have no idea, but it would be fun. I know that. Speaking of fun and good times, though, Walbert, you've got an awesome event coming up on Friday, May 22nd. Fill us in a little bit about you and Astoria, what you guys got rolling over there.
We are putting together an event on May 22nd at the Keep Memory Alive Event Center in downtown called Isang Kusina. And Isang Kusina actually means one kitchen. It's an event that we have been putting together for the past 3 years now by Astoria. And this is a pop-up restaurant and cultural storytelling platform that I help co-own with my partner, Monica. And essentially what we have been doing is with Astoria, we serve cuisine inspired by Philippine history. Because the Philippines has so many different cultural influences across the board. So the timeline with the Philippines is such a complex one. But what we do at Astoria is we dissect every chapter across history and turn that into a dinner experience. And so far, doing this for 3.5 years, we've gone through 5 chapters. We're about to go to our 6th, which will highlight the Filipino-Mexican chapter. But what's really exciting is the opportunity here to dig into Filipino-American history. And it actually starts about 400 plus years ago in California, in Morro Bay. And so this event that we're putting together highlights where Filipinos made their mark on U.S. history and turning that into a menu with 7 chefs representing each of the different regions across the country and bringing them into Vegas to tell a menu that tells our story chronologically but backwards.
That's so cool. Yeah. And obviously very timely, given that, May is Asian American and Pacific Islander Heritage Month. And it's awesome the way you guys are using food to kind of weave in the history and, of your culture and everything. It's so fun. And like just reading up on the event, I was like, man, this sounds awesome. That's why we wanted to make sure we got in on this giveaway as well, to our neighbors, to give them an opportunity to get tickets to this event. And explain to the folks, too, a little bit about how different it is compared to some of the other ones you've done. Because like you said, this one, a star-studded cast of chefs, which we'll get into in a second here. But how does this differ from some of your previous events?
Yeah, so I think the way this differs is we are transforming the Frank Gehry architected Keep Memory Alive Event Center into a museum-inspired environment. One of the big things that we're really pushing for is activations. So expect like an Indiana Jones themed, research sort of activation where you dig up your own family history and heritage. Or another activation would be us wanting to learn more about the different states that each chef is representing. So expect outside of the garden, the Filipino American Chamber of Commerce is working with us to put together a mapping where each of the chefs from all these different states are shown, but how and why did Filipinos make their mark there, impact-wise, on those cities and states? And then you also have your fun ones as well. For anyone who's ever been to a Filipino party, you'll know that karaoke takes the center stage, and food, of course, right? They share the two. But we're actually going to have on the outside, we're going to have mahjong tables set up and a karaoke machine where people can just party
is hot
it out.
right now.
Yeah, it is. So really, it's like, what would you find at a Filipino household? And how do we transform the Keep Memory Alive Event Center into that space? So that's been a fun one. I think being able to bring different chefs across the country to represent their state, I don't think has been done before. I think by calling it Isang Kusina or One Kitchen, we're able to break down walls and invite everyone into this collaborative sphere where we're able to cook with each other alongside one another. And I think it's that kind of coming together that will really throttle the growing Filipino community, especially here in Vegas, but also nationwide. That'll unite us.
Well, something that I'm interested in, one, this all sounds incredible.
It does,
but
yeah.
I love food. Huge into food.
Aren't we all?
Yeah, and Filipino food is great. I love it. So for you, what are you looking forward to the most? I'm curious.
I think what I'm looking forward to is how each of these award-winning chefs across the country will be inspired to take Filipino history and create a dish that is inspired by their own region, right? So, for example, like with the menu, it is chronological. So the states that are being represented are Nevada, Hawaii, Washington, D.C., Washington State, Alaska, Louisiana, California. And so each of
Casting a
those
wide net.
states,
That's awesome.
yeah, each of those states have a bit of something on the why. And so because Las Vegas has been kind of the newest Filipino community to emerge itself in the 1900s, especially with Filipino Town that just came up last year. Course one is Historia by our executive chef Dio Buon. And, previously he worked as a master cook at Joel Robuchon at MGM. And so really for him, the research that we found was, when Filipino emergence came up, especially in the 1900s, many Filipinos helped sustain and were the overall foundation for building F&B and hospitality here when Vegas was on the come up. And there wasn't an opportunity to really highlight Filipino dishes, especially in the fine dining world. So really a lot of Filipinos had to assimilate within these kitchens. And so we think about like the Vegas Trinity, what did that look like? Caviar, foie gras, truffles, these are things that were on the come up, but has never really had like a Filipino sort of stint here. So for the first course, we're thinking about a Vegas Trinity. And we asked the question, what would it look like if a Filipino fine dining restaurant was on the Strip? So course one would kind of be that Trinity that we're well aware of here in Vegas. But the moment you switch to like, let's say, I'll just say Louisiana, not a lot of people know that the first Asian American settlement in the country were by Filipinos in Louisiana.
Yeah, not many people would have known that. There's a handful of pockets like that around the South. I used to live in Alabama, and it was same in Alabama, I believe, with a Thai population as well. It's so crazy, when there's areas like that in spots you wouldn't expect.
Very much so. I think, and that's the beauty of what Historia does. And the team that I work with, we are all very passionate about wanting to break these, at least for us, we want to give you food for thought. Oftentimes we go to a restaurant and it's like we fill the gut, the digestion, all the hunger. But we want to kind of reapproach that mindset and perspective with being able to give you something that'll make you more full with your heart, your mind, your body, and soul. And when you walk out those doors, I didn't know that adobo was pre-colonial Filipino. I thought it was always Spanish influenced, but it was only named adobo because the Spanish had stepped foot and said, this is something similar in our palate. And so from that point, like letting people know and bursting that bubble, it's like, whoa, I didn't even know that. And so like for Louisiana example, like we're going to do like a Filipino inspired gumbo. And it's funny because we talk about the Vegas Trinity, but there is a New Orleans Trinity, green pepper, onion, and celery. And so it's been really fascinating. At Historia, we put research before the food actually. And so we have a whole research team that works with every chef to dig into their chapters across history and kind of uncover the ingredients that came up during that time period. So much that you will see that integrated here. So like really, we want people to know that our history is complex and it happens over the course of these 400 years. But really, like each dish will be a dedication to that specific part in history that tells you who Filipinos are. And so it answers the question, how did Filipinos come to America? That's what this event is about.
Yeah, that's so cool. Food obviously tells a story, and you guys are telling the story behind the food and the Filipino culture, and so it's just exciting. I'm glad we're not on video yet on this podcast. Soon we'll be launching it, but folks will be able to see all of us at home drooling, as they're listening to you dive through these dishes. So for any of the listeners out there who are doing the same, if they want to get more information of how to buy a ticket and just kind of learn more about the event, where should they go, Walbert?
So yeah, if anyone wants to check out the event, on May 22nd at Keep Memory Alive, all they'll have to do is go to isangkusina.com, ISANGKUSINA.com, meaning one kitchen in Filipino. And yeah, it's going to be a special one. I didn't get to mention this earlier, but I'm also dedicating this to my father. He's currently in his late stages of dementia and was diagnosed with Alzheimer's. It's the reason why I moved to Vegas in the first place 5-6 years ago. But I think what's really special about this event too is where the venue is. It's attached to the Cleveland Ruvo Clinic for Brain Health. And all of the venue fees that go toward this event will actually go toward programs dedicated to battling Alzheimer's and a bunch of other diseases.
That's awesome. I love to hear that. Thank you for sharing that with us too. You know, letting people know that it is more than just any other event out there. If they didn't already know that by listening to you wax poetic about what it's going to be like, you know, obviously going to a great cause. So definitely do go check it out. Walbert, thank you so much again. Jacob as well. This was a fun conversation, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for having me. And yeah, happy API Heritage Month.
That's all for today here on CityCast Las Vegas. If you enjoyed the show, why not tell a friend? Rate the show, leave us a review, and subscribe to our free morning newsletter as well. And don't forget, you can support this show and get great perks by becoming a CityCast Las Vegas neighbor at membership.citycast.fm/Las Vegas. You have until the end of the day to join for a chance to score a pair of tickets to Historia's amazing event that you just heard about in this episode. We'll be back tomorrow morning with more news from around the city. Until then, though, take care.